Good morning. Good morning. All right. Let's see, I think today's going to be kind of a short one. Just going to be trying to wrapping up this piece. Maybe doing a quick sketch after this. Still getting used to the green screen. This is my first time streaming kind of during the day, so still working out the lighting. My face seems to be okay, but my arms looks like I'm in Back to the Future. So here we are. This is a piece, Harley Quinn versus Punchline, Joker and Batman. Today I'm going to attempt to knock out the Joker, knock out the Batman. We'll see how successful I'm going to be at this. Keep our fingers crossed a little bit. Let's see, I want to make this not too green. Don't want it to be too bright. Also want to make sure I have enough of kind of the same. My head's covering this up a little bit. I don't usually watercolor that much. Something that I've started doing. I do a wash a lot of times when I do kind of a sketch. Usually the wash is comprised of that day's coffee. So, but I still have some left here. It's early in the morning. I hope everyone is enjoying the holiday weekend, staying safe. Again, help me out if the volume is too low. Give a little shout out, let me know. I do have a tendency that while I'm drawing to trail off in my talking. So, I guess this green looks kind of okay. If we can see this. It looks darker on the screen. What else can I add to this? A little white. It's kind of a minty green. Let's see how this looks. This watercolor brush or watercolor set was gifted by Janoff's Stationery, Upper West Side in New York City. If you guys happen to live in New York City and you're in need of some art supplies, I would definitely recommend checking out Janoff's. It's on Broadway, right next to half a block away from that diner from Seinfeld. Mom and pop shop. Say hello to Jerry if you go. In any case, this piece is long overdue. Hopefully I will be able to wrap this up today. I'm going to apply this coat of green onto the Joker, let it dry. As it's drying, I'm going to be doing a quick pencil sketch. Hopefully during that time of the pencil sketch, this green, and I'm going to add purple to the Batman side, will have dried enough. It's a very faint green. You can barely see it. This is not a great paper to be doing watercolor. This is Bristol board, smooth, if you can believe it. It's not really that smooth because it's picking up, it's absorbing the water very quickly, almost too quickly for my liking. But we will have to make do. After this is done, I'm going to add a layer of Pro White on top, thin layer, so I can knock out the two large heads in the background. They're kind of dominating the scene a little bit too much. Usually if I was doing this piece as a cover or some kind of production piece, once it's scanned in, I'd probably knock out the back. But because it's an original piece, traditional, it's much harder to do that. I don't know the name of the watercolor set, but I'll tell you once I'm done, because then it's on the other side of the lid. This part where I'm mixing the water, that's actually a tray that comes with the set. And the water itself is inside this handle here. I'm sure there's a technical term for it. And just kind of squeeze a little bit every now and then. Squeeze some water out. I just hope this paper does not warp too much more. It's already kind of warped. So I'm just hoping this paper will work with me here. Usually if it was a piece that for a cover, I'd be doing all this stuff on the computer. I separate between Photoshop and Procreate. A lot of times I'm on the road. If I'm on the road, I'll be working with my iPad. If I'm home, I have a Cintiq. And Photoshop 2019, if you're curious. So this part is more just again, trying to knock out the background a little bit. The two characters of Joker and Batman are a little too dominating for my tastes. At the same time, it's there's a lot of detail, but I'm okay with foregoing the detail it means I can get a little bit more clarity on Harley Quinn and Punchline fighting. And that's the most important aspect of this piece. The Joker and the Batman are more accented. Initially, I was thinking about doing a cityscape scene with the two of them leaping off of the edge of a building. But it wasn't coming out right. And ended up going with this default kind of side to side with almost a playing card kind of motif that's been used so often. Hey Yoji, good to see you, man. This piece is for the Jim Lee Bink Drive, the auction that he's been holding for the last 2+ months to help with proceeds going to help support your local comic book stores. That is still going on. And by the looks of things, since things are beginning to close up again, they might be needing more. They've always needed some support throughout this coronavirus lockdown. I mean, Jim's stuff is looking amazing. I think the pen and ink stuff, some of the best work he's done ever. Green is not coming up that much, so hopefully I can finish this today, get it over to him. They can put it up for auction. I think he's on piece number 51 or 52 of 60. So gotta get this in soon before the auction ends. Otherwise it will be for naught. And if you guys haven't seen it, you can go to eBay or you go to Jim Lee, follow Jim Lee's Instagram account. Hello, Kirihiko. How are you doing? Good to see you again. Well, everybody's up this morning. I did not think I would see anybody up. Right now it's 7:30 on the West Coast, but I'm sure you guys are all on the East Coast and other places. As times vary. I'm hopefully going to make an effort to stream a little bit more regularly. Now that I got my green screen working, I have my floating head motif to go along with the cabin fever. Should be able to rock and roll. Getting used to setting up a lot faster now, so well, I've been up all night. I have not slept yet. I was supposed to work on this last night. However, I got sidetracked with a couple of other projects, and I was debating whether I should go to sleep this morning, but then felt like I needed to knock this out and finish it, not wait any longer. So we got the Joker. Yurihiko, you're in Europe somewhere, right? If I'm not mistaken. And Yoji, you're in Maryland, I would want to say. Yeah, what is sleep? I mean, sleep is beautiful though. But I did sleep a lot. Yeah, I slept late yesterday as well. So, kind of on a weird schedule. All right. I think we're done with the green on the Joker, just to give it a nice little tint. Then the Batman, we're going to work on a, excuse me, let's say a kind of like a purplish, blue purple. I was going to say New York, but then I'm like, no. I know it's East Coast. I remember East Coast somewhere. And I might want to say Bethesda, but that's only because in Maryland, besides Baltimore, I only know about Bethesda. So, and I did a store signing at Bethesda years ago. Back in the early days. And the Baltimore Comic-Con is a great show too. It's always one of our favorites. Just squeezing the water out again. This is a my head is situated right above the, let me move my head a little bit. It's probably better. Ellicott City, yes. Yes. Switzerland. How are things in Switzerland? Are you guys out and about, walking around? Everything is kind of back to normal. I'm here in Los Angeles. Things are beginning to go back to the lockdown. There were a lot of things open, but now, especially this weekend, they have the beaches closed. Even the bike trails are closed. Bike paths along the beach. I was actually thinking about taking my bike out there and riding. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Okay, well, let's start with this purple. It's not that much on the Batman side, just to give it a little bit of a tint. If you guys are curious, I've already scanned this piece in, so if I wanted to play with it later as a digital piece, I have a little bit more freedom to adjust the colors. I'll probably scan this in again when I'm done, just to give a comparison. And after I finish with this kind of color wash, I'm going to let it dry, do a quick pencil head sketch. Hopefully, after I'm done with the pencil head sketch, this will have dried up as much as it can. And then I'll add another coating of white on top. Wow, 300 people. Yeah, clubs. Clubs is it's a big place. Clubs and bars. I think I'm too old to go to a club. Although, when I was younger, in my 20s, I'd go to clubs a lot. And never did I think I would ever say that I'm too old to go to a club. But now, yes. I feel like I'm a little too old. You never want to be the oldest guy in a place. I remember saying that to myself when I was going to clubs when I was younger. Hey Yoji, I got a question that I think you would be able to answer. Is there like an app or something that I can add to this? Yeah, movie theaters are screwed too. I specifically avoided the other question that you posted. I saw it, but I can't answer that. Is there an app or a widget that I can add to this, to my page, that will have a computer voice that will read all the comments as I'm drawing, so I don't have to keep on looking up? There's got to be something like that, right? Well, Kirihiko might know. You never know. I'm an old guy. I mean, pretty soon, one of these days, I'm going to be going to restaurants at 5 for the early bird special. I mean, I was doing that when I was like in elementary school because it was a great deal, but nowadays, well, nowadays you can't really even go out to eat anymore, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Because I was going to say, like, even to a place like Sizzler or something. Oh, the question was, is there an app that can read the comments as they're being posted? So I don't have to look up all the time to read and miss, a comment here or there. Like, I'm sure there is. Like a widget. Oh, Yoji, thank you. My mom's well. She's in Taiwan. So Taiwan is, she's stuck in Taiwan right now, but Taiwan is probably one of the safest places in the world right now. Less than 500 total confirmed cases of COVID. Just under 40 of those were from a battleship, like a military cruiser of some sort. And I believe under 50 fatalities in the entire country since the coronavirus outbreak. So, hey, Classy Bathrobe, good to see you again. So, it's kind of amazing because I was actually in Taiwan at the end of Hey Yay Games 5000. I was actually in Taiwan at the end of January through the middle of February. Right when this was kind of, the whole thing was kicking off. Originally, well, I mainly fly American Airlines. So American Airlines doesn't have a direct flight into Taipei or Taiwan. You have to either go through Tokyo or Hong Kong and then switch flights. And for that flight, I had actually booked from Hong Kong. I booked it, I think, December So before all this stuff happening, you know, I wanted to take advantage of that leg to Hong Kong. Hong Kong airport has some nice shops. And also because the leg was, I think, 13 hours from LA to Hong Kong. In the past, I've taken that leg and kind of upgraded to business class. And in the past, when you upgrade the business class over 13-hour flights, they give you pajamas. So I wanted to get a set of free pajamas. So I booked the leg through Hong Kong. But this time when I went, there was no pajamas. They had changed their airline policy. So, but on the way back, the Hong Kong leg got canceled. Actually, a couple days before I was going to come back, or a week before I was going to come back. So I had to rebook through Tokyo to come back to LA. Yeah, the outrage. I mean, come on, free pajamas. They're pretty good. I have a set. I wanted another set, but what can you do? So okay, we're pretty much good with this. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, set it to the side, and I should turn on the fan. That'll help speed up the drying. So when I was in Taiwan during the February, you know, remember there was a cruise ship that had docked in Japan at one point, and there were a bunch of fatalities and a lot of cases on board. That cruise ship, I think, had docked in Taiwan the week before. And so this is Koi watercolors, Sakura color products. The Sakura is the same as the as these Micron pens. Can't really see. These were gifted by Janoff's Stationery in New York City on Broadway, Upper West Side. So if you guys are in New York, go check them out. Great little mom and pop shop, art supply store right by Columbia University. So anyways, when I was in Taiwan, they actually, I was thinking about, I was going to knock out this area here just to balance it out. Nah, I think I'll leave it. Give me 1 second. Let me turn on the fan. What the hell was I saying? Oh, so the cruise ship that had docked. So contact tracing. The whole purpose of this is contact tracing. So one morning or one day I get like a text. You know, like here you get an Amber Alert. Text where like your phone just goes off random, you know, for the alarm. And there you get everybody's phone went off. And there was a map of Taipei with red dots all around the map, indicating where the people from the cruise ship had gone to in that one kind of afternoon when they docked and kind of walked around, did touristy stuff. And the government sent that out to everyone and said, hey, you know, citizens, if you've been in this area, please self-quarantine. Look for symptoms, make sure nobody's sick. So the contact tracing was amazing. here in the U.S., there's none of that stuff. So Google text to speech for Twitch and find a couple. Okay. Google text. Text to speech for Twitch. Text to speech for Twitch. Okay. Thank you very much, Yay Games. 5,000. Anybody have any suggestions on what to draw? Last couple of drawings I've been doing, pencil sketches, were Destro and Baroness. Last week on the second installment, which was the third actually because I started with a 0, I did a CHANG, which did not come out very well. I was very disappointed. Sketching has been kind of hard too. It's been kind of difficult to focus during this quarantine. So really getting back to it. Randy Macho Man Savage. Yeah, I want to stick with, that's a kind of a cool subject, but I want to stick with kind of imaginary characters. So do you guys want to, throw out some suggestions? Otherwise, I was going to do, what is it, Thundercats? Maybe one of the Thundercats? But that's kind of difficult too. I don't really draw animals that well. But I was thinking I was going to do a whole series of like characters that I liked when I was younger. As a latchkey kid coming home from school, every day I would watch a bunch of different shows. Canvas the North Star. G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats. I've never drawn a Thundercat before, so I thought I should try that. But I don't want to draw I have drawn have I drawn any anime characters in my style? I have drawn a couple. Well, aside from the Chun-Li, there was some anime character with the pointy hair, but that describes almost 3/4 of every anime character. I don't really know the name. Actually, it's on my, I think it's on my Instagram. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, but I was thinking about drawing Panthro. Oh, here it is. This is one I drew. Yu-Gi-Oh! Bakura. But what about is it Panthera? Pantera? Or Lioness? It's Lionel. I don't want to draw Lionel. Panthro. Or Tigra or Chitara. I don't want to draw that. What's the character that always has like Snarf? Is that Snarf? No. Am I correct, or is my memory really betraying me? Panthro, Chitara or Panthro? Anybody have a Snarf? Yeah, is that Snarf? Is that the character's name? But I don't see Snarf. Oh, here it is, the Snarf. Snarf. Extremely annoying character. Snarf. And then the lion guy, the tiger guy, Tigra. You know, I completely forgot about Tigra. I just remembered Panthro, Liono, and Chitara, and then the two kids. But I guess Panthro drove the truck, right? And then Tigra, was he like the wiser, older Thundercat? But did he always like say Schnarf? Did Schnarf always said Schnarf in some way? Was it like Groot, where Groot only said Groot? I think Schnarf talked, but he would always go Schnarf. Says here later in the series there's a Bengali, a Lynxo, and a Pumra. But Pumra is the bad guy, right? Or under other Thundercats. All right, let's just keep it simple. Let's check out these. I'm Google searching, Google image search. Hello, El Kabong. Right, B.A. Baracus. That was another show. A-Team. And the one thing with the shows back then, like A-Team and G.I. Joe, nobody ever got killed. A-Team had those modified AK-47s. They would blow a lot of stuff up, but nobody ever died. And then G.I. Joe, the same thing. But if you were to watch like Speed Racer, I even think Battle of the Planets or G-Force or Gatchaman, people like got slaughtered. So I don't know. Thundercats, Panthro. Okay. Panthro has those spikes on his suspenders. Okay. Oh yeah? That's funny. Yeah, nobody ever died in those shows back then. And you'd always see like some Cobra guy would like parachute out somehow. So there was never an attrition of soldiers for the Cobra army because they all survived. Like not even like with injuries like a broken bone or a broken leg. They all did pretty well. Got back behind a vehicle and would fight another day. I think I am perpetually using the same camera angle for these figures. This is my default. Do you guys, if you draw, do you ever notice you have a habit of drawing characters looking in a particular direction as a default? And I think I briefly talked about this in a previous stream. There was a He-Man. Oh yes, I think that's on Netflix. He-Man documentary. So anyways, Panthro's nose is kind of short. He almost has this, depending on certain drawings, this Homer Simpson like Homer Simpson-like mouth. I think I want to draw a Panthro with kind of a wider nose. Maybe give his eyes a little bit more to the side. Kind of take a little bit more of the animalistic approach. Yeah, I think, well, he has a smaller forehead too. Hopefully I can keep this sketch down to half an hour or so. Not take too long. Because I do want to get some sleep today. And I have a couple other things I want to finish. I remember if this was a Kirihiko drawing, I would leave the eyes for the end, to draw in, to fill in. Right? Since you're here online today. Is there anything else? It's looking kind of Homer Simpson-esque. By the way, last night, tons of fireworks. It almost sounded like they're shooting them from my building. And did you ever answer why eyes last? It's just a personal preference. Because I remember watching some of your streams and like the piece would be almost completed except for the eyes. And it was, thank you for the subscription, El Kabong. I'm going to try to stream once or twice a week. In the past, it was very difficult, but with the coronavirus, it's also difficult, but for different reasons. Oh, thank you for the subscription. Wow. I thought it was just a follow. Okay. I'm just curious. Like I tend to draw the eyes and eyebrows first. Or at least have some indicator of that. Did the Thundercats have like... Yeah, well... I guess I answered my own question before I even finished it. Because they're cats, so they gotta have like sharp teeth. A single firework. Yeah, it was all night. Different areas of town, you can hear it pretty much in LA. And it was a succession of fireworks. It wasn't just one, it was like. Psh, 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 psh. And I was like, that's got to be like a neighbor. And then I went outside because I thought, oh, maybe someone snuck on the roof. No, it might have been a building next to us. But I'm expecting more tonight. This face is like a little too long. Let's start over. That's the age-old problem of getting too detailed, too soon, too fast, when I haven't figured out exactly how this piece is going to look. Now, what if Kirihiko, what if the character was wearing sunglasses? Or like a visor, like let's say you're drawing Cyclops. Would you still wait to the end? Has anyone ever asked that question before? So you would think like Thundercats would have ears up here, right? Because they're cats. But okay, fair enough. Thank you for, I'm sure you get asked this question all the time and you're probably sick of answering it. So thank you for playing along. Is anyone going to a barbecue today? Excuse me. I'm gonna make this guy's neck super thick. It's just really interesting seeing your drawings with the eyes unfinished and everything else is like fully rendered. I mean, when it's done, it works, you know, but it's just, again, like process drawings. Everybody has different process. It's just interesting to see other artists' processes. El Caban, where are you based out of? Ooh, something just happened. Oh, greetings. Thank you for a follow. This is Panthro. Anything else? Everything else is kind of like a human anatomy. Is there skin kind of like fur? Has anybody ever like drawn You know, like, does he have a stubble? What if Panthro had a stubble? Rhode Island. Wow. In Providence? I had considered going to Rhode Island School of Design for college or Brown. Ultimately, I ended up going to Pratt in Brooklyn, but RISD was my first choice. Sometimes you don't always get what you want, but it works out. I remember I was in Providence checking out the school, checking out RISD in Brown, and going to some diner in downtown Providence that was like super popular, like an old school kind of diner. I don't remember the name. But I love those old school joints. I'm not sure, this was such a long time ago. I remember ordering a sandwich. They were famous for sandwiches. I don't know if that helps narrow it down. Probably doesn't. I'm going to make varying sizes of spikes. I would think as you get to the front, they're probably a little bit shorter because he has to swing his arms, right? So form follows function. Heaven Bros, Heaven Bros. This would have been in the 1989. Long time ago. Delicious. Alright, I think I got the premise of everything here. Right? Panthro has nunchucks. Panthro. You would think these guys are kind of hairy, but maybe because of the animated style back then, they didn't opt to draw the hair because they wouldn't be able to animate it consistently then. Okay. Alright. And again, my trusty eraser brush. So now that I got everything kind of laid out, yeah, I'm pretty okay with the how everything looks here. Let's start going in. 6 fan arts challenge. That's the 6 panels with the different characters. Yeah, I thought about it, but then everybody was doing it. And then I was thinking about doing the Sailor Moon challenge, and I had a couple of good ideas. But then everybody was... Now I don't remember any of my ideas, but I thought they were good at the time. I have a memory that they were good, but I just don't remember what they were. Right? Did you do one? Yeah, what was my idea? I thought I had like a really good... Oh, and I had a really good Sailor Moon challenge idea. Again, I don't remember what it was, but at the time I remember thinking that, wow, this is a really good idea. And because you can look at it, I guess, two different ways. Some of it is execution, technical application of skill. How well you draw something. So how well you draw something that's whatever it is you're drawing, whether it's an actual human or an anime, manga-esque, or some other version of Sailor Moon, and or the combination of design. Like, what is it that you're drawing? You know, if it's a really cool concept that nobody's thought of, I almost enjoy more pleasure in that than to do a better drawing than someone else. Right? If you like the idea, it's the most important thing. Because drawing, technical, you can, if you have enough time, the right references and resources, you can replicate anything. Work has been pretty busy, dude. That's good. If work is... It's always good to be busy. I've found that it's been extremely difficult to focus during the pandemic. And so work output has suffered greatly. But hopefully, I've been forcing myself to stream, which will get me to draw. And in turn, hopefully, get this engine back up and running. You know, sometimes it takes a little while to get going again. Yeah. Like the Sailor Moon challenge, the ones that I liked the most were the ones that were like the most creative, right? You know, taking the idea as opposed to replicating, you know, to do your manga version of it. To me, it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, big deal. But to, you know, think about what you're drawing. That's the most fun. And then that's how you separate yourself from everyone else. And then a combination of if you can then execute this brilliant idea, right? I mean, sometimes people have a great idea, but then the drawing is like meh. But if you can do both, man, that's really that's what takes the cake. Deadlines, that's true. I'm going to give Panthro some gummage. I mean, did you guys have a favorite Sailor Moon challenge drawing? Do you remember any of them? Some of them, when I looked, I remember I laughed. I just don't remember which ones anymore. It was so long ago. Plus, my short-term memory it's really gone to it's been really horrible during the pandemic. I can't remember anything. I can remember today is Saturday, although during the week I kept thinking I was a day behind. So when it was Wednesday, I kept thinking it was Tuesday. But then by the time I got to Thursday, I realized that, oh, Friday's right around the corner, and what do you know, it's already Saturday. So it's like I miss one day out of the week now, somehow. It's really weird. And I feel like I'm dumber, kind of. So, and I'm definitely heavier. So that doesn't help. Let's do a little indicator of some fur. Let's give Panthro like a stubble. Panthro's also been up all night, I guess patrolling, what was the secret lair called? Hello, greetings from space. Thank you for joining this morning. Happy 4th of July. But yeah, I can't remember anything. There was even a moment where now I think I'm like sometimes hallucinating stuff. Like I thought I saw this movie poster, not a poster, but like a movie, you know, advertising on I think it was like HBO Max, where there were pigs flying above a guy and a girl on a farm. Like small pigs, like a whole army of pigs. And I went back to look for it and I couldn't find it. And I was thinking, did I make that up? Like I literally looked through the entire catalog. And either they took it off or I was hallucinating. But it was wild. I couldn't find it. So I could be going crazy. But the days are really blending in. It's very difficult to kind of gauge. I mean, it's already July. I'm sure everybody has the same or similar kind of feeling. Well, Kirihiko, you're in Switzerland. Do you feel the effects of the quarantine, or have you been able to maintain your sanity? Greetings from space. Where are you based in space? I'm thinking I don't want to make him too, like, furry, because then he might look weird. I'm also going to go back in later with an eraser. Really pick out some highlights. I think that'll look cool. He's looking a little furry, but I mean, he's a panther, right? You know? Is your skin dry from having to hand sanitize it all the time? Near the top. Canada? Iceland? I'm thinking about trying to buy one of those entire face masks with the 2 filters on the side. I'm hoping to do some traveling by the end of the summer. Hoping that things clear up. And I think if that happens, I might want to get one of those things if I'm going to sit in a plane. At the same time, those masks, those full face masks with the 2 filter things, I was looking at it, I was like, well, it's great for me, but when you exhale, it directly exhales out into the regular space, so there's no mask protection for other people, and I feel like, that's kind of selfish if I were to get that, right? I don't know. I mean, I was thinking maybe I could get a regular mask and then cut or put a piece where it vents out. Because as I'm inhaling, it goes through filters, 2 filters. But as I exhale, there are no filters. I mean, those are usually used for like construction workers. But yeah. So just debating. And on Amazon, there's like all these different prices too. So. Right, American are selling middle seats. I mean, right now I'm only flying, last few years, I've been only flying American, try to maximize my frequent flyer experience. And, I mean, it's been great. But now they're selling middle seats. So, and I found actually you can travel with birds, but only domestic. If it's international, it has to be under 12 hours, I think. But even then, the country has to be able to accept the birds, and I think birds might be difficult. I gotta figure that out. But domestically, you can travel to most places flying with birds, as long as they fit inside of a cage underneath the seat in front of you. It counts as a carry-on luggage. Did you guys ever see the one in early on during the lockdown? There was a quote-unquote inventor that designed a mask that opened like a Pac-Man mouth. It was hilarious. I wonder if it ever took off. I mean, it looked really silly. You know, when you go eat, you have to take off your mask. What would be the invention? There's a lot of stuff too now online on like Kickstarter, or I remember there was like a keyhole thing where it's like a round, you can either use it to open doors or push buttons, like push buttons on an elevator or like ATM machine. There was a Kickstarter for one, and it looked kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, like before the Kickstarter even came out, there were other ads for ones that were already similar. So basically, some people just stole their idea. I think, I don't know, I'm assuming, and were able to manufacture a similar like product before the Kickstarter. So I wonder how much sales it impacted. He has a patch on his chest. Panthro. I mean, eventually, get a mask, one of those big heavy-duty ones. You can reuse it, you know. And so I think it'll come in handy. Yeah, that's my fear. Is I think some of those, because the pricing on Amazon is like, there's some masks that are like 100, some $200, and then there's some masks that are like 70, $80, and they look almost identical. So I gotta think the 70, $80, those are like the knockoffs. But the real ones you can't get really, or they're out of stock. So you can only get the knockoffs, and like, are the knockoffs still safe? Do they still provide adequate protection? If they do, I don't know. If they don't, it's like buying those knockoff sneakers. I mean, they look just like the actual Air Jordans or whatever, but they're knockoffs. Sometimes they're made in the same factory. Sometimes they're made in a next door factory, but they look identical. However, sometimes the knockoffs, the materials are crap. So if you go and play a game, basketball in them or something, they might break on you, or they don't last that long because the materials are inferior. For a mask that I'm going to use maybe, I don't know, a handful of times, if it still provides protection, is it worth getting? And I mean, it's a knockoff, or are they knocking off an actual product, or they're just making something that is comparable? Be my question. Excuse me. That's true, right? The glue doesn't, it could be something that I use once. I mean, I've had a couple of times now during the quarantine while I'm out, the mask that I'm wearing breaks, snaps. I mean, luckily, the couple times that's happened, I've had a spare mask with me, whether on me or in my car. How do you guys like this so far? The mouth is a little... I usually don't like buying bootleg stuff either. But I don't buy any bootleg sneakers because you don't want to wear any of that stuff. You're just going to get injured if you're trying to play ball in any of that stuff. I mean, some of it, I watch those YouTube videos where they compare the knockoffs to the real ones. And unless you really had two of them next to each other, there's no way that you can tell. Or you know what to look for. I mean, Jordans are probably one of the easier ones because of just the Jordan logo. There are specifics to the logo that are very difficult to copy. Thank you, Al Kabong. I think maybe after this, maybe I'll do the whole team. Not today, but like the next time. I remember when the Thundercats comic book came out. So they had the cartoon was first. Then they had toys. I think they had toys. I don't really remember the toys that much. But they had to have toys. I mean, that's basically the cartoons were like half-hour commercials that would get kids salivating for the toys, pretty much. I mean, G.I. Joe cartoons was basically to sell toys, right? And the comics were to also supplement that and build even more backstory. I mean, G.I. Joe, I started with watching the cartoon first, getting the toys, and then getting the comics. He-Man was a toy first, then cartoon. Yeah. So the Thundercats comic, when it came out, like Transformers was already out, G.I. Joe was already out. I also got the Transformers comic book. That was pretty cool. There was a couple issues in there. I don't remember the artist's name, but there was some issues in there where I was like, wow, this guy really can really draw. And then there's other ones who was like, it's okay, it's all right. And this was also when comics was available through subscription from like Marvel. You know, you could get a subscription from Marvel, and they would mail you the comic, and every month in a brown paper bag. So I do that, and then I go to the comic book store too to get like the limited series or the annuals or stuff that wasn't available through your monthly subscription service. Because back then, you know, I didn't have a car, and the comic book shop was too far from where I lived. So I could maybe go once a month, get my mom to drive me down there. It was always damaged, yes. There was always some kind of crease on the corner. But then it just made you, if you went to the store and you really wanted it, and you really wanted to collect it, you just bought an extra copy from the store. Plus, then they also had newsprint versions. You could tell that by the barcode. It would have a barcode on the front, whereas the direct market ones didn't have a barcode on the front, or something like that. And sometimes the newsprint versions nowadays is worth more than the direct market, or vice versa, because the newsstands, once they didn't sell, if they didn't sell after a few weeks, the stores would cut up the logo and then destroy the rest. So I think there were like fewer newsstand copies of something, if I'm correct. Okay, I think I'm done. If you're going to draw in pencil, I would advise you to shade in the lines or hatch in the lines in directional lines. That would help create the form. You don't have to be perfect, but if you were to do it flat, draw it flat, then it doesn't help your drawing at all. So you might as well. Go in the direction that helps form the shape. Man, I'm really hungry this morning. Yeah, the spinner rack too. Because then you thumb through the spinner rack, and that creates a crease on the upper corner. I mean, at first I was probably one of those stupid kids that would do that, because I'm like 8, 9 years old. I'm going to the drugstore. My mom's doing grocery shopping or whatever. And I'm parked in front of the comic book rack just reading comics. I had no concept of it being collectible. Of course, when I got to my teenage years and then I started really looking at it as a hobby, getting bags and boards. By the time I started reading comics, I lay it on my bed and flip one page at a time. Flip, read, and then flip, read, and then when I'm done, put it in the bag and board. Okay, let's go back. Excuse me. This is a Mono Zero flat eraser. It's one of my favorite tools. Again, gifted by Janoff's Stationery. If you're in New York City, this is not a paid plug. I mean, they just being nice. They're being nice too by supplying me with some awesome tools. I had never known that this thing existed, a flat, and you can go in and get some nice line work. I think that's what I wanted to do with this. Trying to get some texture going. I am getting tired. I can feel my eyes getting drowsy. and it's harder to read the screen. I still have my comic collection. I still have my boxes. They're underneath the stairs. I have the ones when I was collecting as a teenager. Those are probably the most organized. They're in alphabetical order. I have a ton of comics from the 90s, back when I was at Valiant. Because Valiant was such a small company, but all the companies had an exchange program. I would get weekly Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Dark Horse. But then I would not have a ton of time to read them. So I'd get them, and then eventually you'd just get a huge stack every week and just stuff it in a box. Thinking that one of these days, when I have a kid, that kid's going to have all the reading material that they could ever want. Meanwhile, I don't have a kid yet. So much for planning ahead. I do need an assistant, I feel like. Only 2, come on, Yoji, you can go buy some more. I'm sure there are still a few in the 25-cent bins. Do they still have 25-cent bins? I probably have a couple hundred copies. I know when it first came out, I had a box of like 200. It was my first #1 comic ever. And then since I've accumulated a few more. Sometimes if I go in a store and I see a bunch, I'd buy them up. But I've also given away a bunch, so... Ugh, was that a squeak? So I would say probably like 200, not a full box. How many? I mean, I have maybe a dozen golds. I have some that are non-cut, uncut, meaning the book itself is like bigger than an actual comic book because they didn't trim it. Those I like. I think those are hard to come by. You never know. They might be worth 35 cents at some point. Death Blow #1, that was a big book. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that came out in the 90s. I was a little upset. I was a little upset that they did not make a Chromium Dr. Mirage #1. Because right before that, they had done Bloodshot Chromium, which was like a regular cover but with a smaller chromium sticker on top. And then they came out with the Exo, was it Exo Chromium or Turok Chromium? They had the Turok Chromium card. So I was thinking, yeah, man, I'm going to get like this chromium cover. It's going to look really nice with the gradient background that I had drawn. And then nothing. And they said that there was Heroes magazine cover. Heroes magazine was at the time a competitor to Wizard magazine. It's like a comics journal, a comics news magazine. And their debut issue, their #1 issue, was the same cover as Dr. Mirage #1. They used the cover. And that cover had kind of like a foil, thing to it. So I also have a couple of those issues. But that was cool. I mean, I was like, what, 20, 21 at the time? Just to have your own comic book come out was already a treat. All right. Kind of like this thing here. Like that the being curved. So I don't ever think I had a book that had a chromium cover. At Valiant. I mean, I've had a gold book. I did the Chaos Effect Alpha. That had a red cover. That was supposedly extremely rare. There was the Hardcore number 5 that they did a special. I think there was another distributor at the time called Comics something. Aside from Diamond, there were like 2 or 3 distributors. 2, I think. And they had done a chase cover of that book. That was technically my first published work, although the first book I drew was an Archer and Armstrong backup story. But the Hardcore came out first. Because they needed a rush on that one. And back then I was pretty fast, so. And back then I was only penciling. All right. Panthro. Let's take a picture of this. Anything else I should do? People like to put their pencil next to it. As if you couldn't figure out it was drawn with a pencil. Okay. All right. Now back to the original sketch. Let's see here, this thing's dried up. Can work both ways. I'm gonna have to flatten this out later. Oh yeah, they had those too. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, the Ninjak, that book was amazing. Ninjak, when it came out, Joe Quesada drew it, and he had the whole Art Nouveau kind of decorative design to all the pages. That really inspired a whole wave of like this decorative Art Nouveau panel framing. So we're going to use a little Pro White. This is like kind of like a white paint. And where's the brush that I was going to use? Let's see. It's like a flat brush. If I could find it in this. Here it is. Okay. All right. Now this is going to be kind of inconsistent, I feel like. Hope I don't mess it up. Oh, okay, there's too much water. Okay, Jenny's gooey butter cake. It's gonna absorb the water. Put some more back in there. I feel like I'm just gonna have to eyeball it. So it's kind of like white paint. Inkers use this a lot. Cover up mistakes or whatever. I'm afraid. I'm so afraid. That's true. When other artists came back in and tried to draw that book and used the same design motif, it just wasn't the same. I was actually slated to draw a Ninjak miniseries written by Mark Moretti. We had passed out promo posters at San Diego Comic-Con one year, but then something happened, it got canceled, and never did. I did like a few pages from it. Okay. Let's see. I think this is how I'll do it, just strokes. It's coming out too heavy. It's dripping. I'm not talking right now because I need to focus. I need to focus on this, what I'm doing. Otherwise, I could ruin the whole piece. So bear with me. If you have a question and I don't answer it, I will try to get to it. But right now I need to concentrate. This is almost like talking while you're shooting a free throw. Very difficult. It's too dark, too light, too bright. I don't know. I don't know if I like it. This piece is so warped from all the watercolor. I'm gonna have to flatten it out at some point. Let's see if I can fix it a little bit. ever ink a book? Well, my last few years at DC, well, actually my entire tenure at DC, I was penciling and inking. So, and the last year on Teen Titans, it was all digital. Whereas before, it was traditional, pen and ink on Bristol. Eventually got to the point where it was all digital. So digital, it's inks, but how you draw it, it's a little different. So as you're drawing, I mean, pencils and inks, digital, yeah, there's no real difference because you're just drawing. And even if you're quote unquote inking digitally, if you make a mistake, you can still delete it. Whereas traditionally, if you made a mistake, you'd have to, use Pro White or something like that, or just be very careful. This is kind of achieving what I want, but I just hope this directional stroke, when I pull out later, I can't really see your name. It's getting late in the evening for me. Jinha Labs. I already signed it at the bottom. Originally I thought I was done, but then I looked at it and I thought, no, I gotta do some more to it. This is a piece for Jim Lee's Bink Foundation, or Jim Lee's fundraiser for comic book stores through Bink Foundation. Hopefully I can get this done today. Get it out to him. If you guys have been checking that out, he's been doing, I think he's done 50 drawings so far. Jim has, and then there's been other artists that have also contributed to the fundraising. All the proceeds go to help support your local comic book store during this unprecedented time. A lot of stores have had to really limit how they do business. How do I... So again, this process, I have to focus a little bit more than normal. Penciling, you can go back in there and erase. This is much more difficult to go back. Also, because I don't use this medium that often, it's very daunting for me. So I hope you excuse these moments of silence. What I'm trying to do is add a thin layer of pearl white, kind of knock out two large faces in the background. I feel like they're a little too overpowering. Kind of lose Harley Quinn and Punchline. So I'm trying to see if there's something I can do to... That's too thick. Usually in the computer, if I scanned it in, I'd then cut it out, mask out the faces, and probably decrease the opacity, copy paste them on a separate layer. But when you're working with traditional pen and ink on paper, it's very difficult to do that. And Bristol doesn't take water very easily. Will I do a single print from the digital pages? I thought about that. I haven't really come to a conclusion yet. I do see that some artists, digital guys, have been doing that. I don't know. My initial gut reaction is no. But if it's like a really awesome page, I don't know. It depends on the demand. And I guess, yeah, you could make a certificate of authenticity stating that that is the only copy available. It's still a print. It's not the original. I don't know. Have you bought any? Have you bought any prints from artists? Like digital prints? I think some they do just one, and then other times I've seen people do like 5. But they're very limited runs. I think if they do it on like Bristol board or like other kind of like archival paper, it could look cool, right? And then maybe you go in there and then touch up like one piece or one portion of it. I mean, it could work. It's all up to the collectors, I guess. I try not to collect any artwork myself because I feel like if I start doing that, it's just going to be a very expensive habit. I also don't like to ask other artists for trades. Mostly because I don't want to offend anybody. If I ask for a trade and they value their page more than they value mine, so I have had other people ask me for a trade, and I'm happy to do that if they do ask, but but it's always kind of weird, awkward. Because then they'll ask for a page, and then I'll be like, well, the page that you're asking for is not a fair trade, but so that is a contentious topic as well. Can you guys see this? I kind of like how it's being knocked out. I just don't like the warping of the paper. But we're kind of at a point of no return. Especially with the warping of the paper. How's the audio, by the way? I know the first few streams I've been having difficulty with the audio volume. Again, sometimes when I'm working I trail off. My voice goes kind of soft. Thank you. Okay, audio's good. Thumbs up. I wonder if there's some kind of like steam machine or something that people use to flatten artwork that's warped. I guess I should have looked into that before I started. But then again, I didn't think the paper would get this warped. Go back in later with a thicker white to clean out the border. So should I eat a steak later after this? Or should I go to sleep first? Or should I eat like an Impossible Burger? Oh, so you're saying while it's damp, I should flatten it. That'll help. Is that something that's proven, or are you just making that up, Yoji? I mean, I'll trust you. Yeah, but eating and then sleeping, it feels amazing, but it's very easy to gain extra LBS. I'm trying to watch my diet because I'm not exercising as often as I would be. I'm almost tempted to just go in there with a splatter. But then it just might look too chaotic. Still got this portion to work out, but let me see if I can. Oops. Seems like I can go back in there with the Pro White. Yeah, my vision definitely is gone. I can't read the screen. I'm gonna have to read the OBS screen. Jay Lee splatter with a toothbrush, yes. Jay Lee and Jim Lee, they have a really good splatter technique. And John Paul Leon. Alright, let's see if I can knock out this Harley Quinn section. When I get this done, next half hour so I can go to sleep. Plus I can't sleep too much during the day, because then I'm going to end up on a backward schedule. And my birds got to come out and play. The last few times I've been streaming at night, so they've all been in the cage. They're actually up already. I went and checked on them before I started streaming. They actually haven't been making that much noise, which is good. Usually in the morning they'll start chirping, wanting to wake me up, because they want to get out and play. It's too bright. Do they poop everywhere? Well, I have food available for them in a cage up here. So when they want to eat, they have to fly upstairs. And then, when they're in the cage eating, I usually lock the gate. And I keep them in the cage for about 45 minutes to an hour. That way when they eat, after they eat, they'll hang out in the cage and poop in the cage. And I'll check the lining of the cage floor to see if there indeed is some fresh poop. And upon confirmation of 2 fresh duties, I then let my birds out. But they do still, at times, I find poop in the house. Now with these birds, it's not that bad because they don't have a large intestine. So literally their poop does not smell. It's just, I just gotta walk around and with a little, fantastic little spritz cleaner and a paper towel and just spot clean where they might poo-poo. Does anyone have birds? I think other birds, some birds, their poop smells, you know, like pigeons, right? Or seagulls, because they have like large intestines. But my parrotlets, they don't, so it doesn't smell. The color of the poop changes. Oh yeah, X-Acto knife. I've seen that. It looks cool. They go back in with the ink, they'll cut it up like rain or scratches. Yeah. Okay. Well. Oh. Oh. Sorry. There we go. The magic of green screen. Well, I think that is as light as I can probably get it. I'll go in there, hit it with some white. Certain areas. I should use like a white pen like I had earlier to create a nice little outline. But hit some of that. Bam! Like emerald. And I think if I could, at some point, I'd like to have, if I were to get like a four-legged pet, I would probably opt for a pig. You know, something different. Besides, they're supposedly extremely intelligent creatures. Almost as smart as a 3-year-old. The only thing is I don't know how smart a 3-year-old is because I don't have any kids. So, are 3-year-olds very smart? This paper is like really warped. Go in there. I think this is it. There's nothing else I can add to this. Maybe a outline around the two girls, but then that's it. After that, add some white up here. Clean this area up. Well, I'm sure 3-year-olds are probably actually smarter than some adults right now. I mean, I remember as a 3-year-old having like extensive conversations. or I have a memory of having like kind of extensive conversation, like really detailed conversations, but I just don't remember what they are, and that's not even the coronavirus talking. That's just I think old age or something. But I kind of have this feeling that when I was 3, I was saying some very important things, even though I was probably not. But it was the feeling of. I keep feeling that there's like a steam press, like when you press iron shirts, that you can like put on top of this and then whammo, voila, perfect. I do remember drawing something at around 3 or 4, my first drawing. Or I say it's my first drawing. I was with my cousins. And I drew a naked man and a naked woman. And all of us were like giggling on the side. And then the adults came over, and I was like, uh-oh. Got in trouble drawing a naked person. Or 2 naked people, actually. Okay. Sometimes you just gotta go pencils down. All right. And I got a white jelly roll here. Let's do a quick kind of hit. Being in California is nice when you're doing this kind of work because it dries very quickly. I remember in Miami, man, so humid. You didn't even need watercolors. The paper would already curl up. Even in Taiwan, it was so humid that the paper would curl up already from the humidity in the air, and also just like sweat or perspiration, really, from your like hand or arm. I mean, there's something about drawing naked people that just gets kids smiling and laughing, right? Where's my brush? I forgot an area. And then in first grade, when we moved to the States, for show and tell, I did a drawing of Superman. Come back to this area later. Let me work on Harley for a little bit. Let me let that area dry. Monsoon season. Yeah, I think they call it typhoon season. Monsoon season, maybe? I think monsoon is a different part of the world, right? I mean, typhoon is like basically a hurricane. But they don't have hurricanes. What is it? Hurricanes are only in the Pacific? Is that right? I mean, hurricanes are only in the Atlantic. And then if it's in the Pacific, it's a typhoon. But yeah, typhoon watch. I was there in Taiwan again last August, and there was a typhoon watch while I was there. Luckily, it was actually weird because walking around as it was normal, but then somebody's like, "Hey, tomorrow the typhoon's gonna hit." I'm like, what? Everybody was so casual about it. Come on, Yoji. I thought you were the man of knowledge, like a walking Google search. Oh, okay. Monsoon is nonstop rain. Yeah, I mean it rains pretty much. Well, like Miami, it rains every day, but it rains only part of the day. So, like in Miami, it was like every day 3 o'clock rain, and then by like 5, 6 o'clock it would clear up. So once the sun set, there's no rain, but it's still humid. I could go for a breakfast burrito right now. Breakfast burrito. All right, I think that's it. What do you guys think? Anything else? I can't read anything. Is it humid in Seattle though, even though it rains a lot? I'm assuming it is, but is it humid and hot, or how does that work? Okay, well, I'm pretty beat. I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning. I feel like drinking this coffee, but I want to go to sleep. I hope you enjoy your July 4th weekend, holiday weekend, Independence Day. Thank you for watching. Check back soon, subscribe so you know when I'll be back on again. You can also check out some sketches on Instagram, the Bernard Chang. It's the same tag, social media handle. And thank you, everyone. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Don't eat too many hot dogs. Well, I wonder, are they going to have a Nathan's hot dog challenge today? Like on Zoom? Anyways, see you next time. Maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, who knows? Maybe tomorrow.